little show he had something to do with called 24. He's the executive producer, Howard Gordon. And she's been the star of two of your favorite shows, Firefly and V. The lovely Morena.
Aren't I lucky?
So Howard, let's start with you. What inspired you to get on board Homeland?
You know, inspiration has a lot of strange handmaids. I was first inspired by my agent, who represents the company that owns this format, or upon which Homeland was based. Homeland is actually based on an Israeli format called Prisoners of War, and my agent, they actually produced In Treatment as well, the original Israeli version. And anyway, Rick is coming back from visiting his clients, and he said, "I have your next show." And I said, "Sure, that sounds great." I was busy doing 24, I didn't give much thought to it, and next thing I knew, I was involved in a show that actually required a fair bit of reinvention. So it was a very slow process of inspiration, but sometimes the slower things are most satisfying.
Now, obviously, there are some similarities with 24 and with this show, and the fact that they both dealt with terrorism to a certain extent. What has been the biggest difference you found working on, let's say, broadcast television versus cable, like Showtime?
Well, the two questions are, you know, there is a world of difference between working on broadcast television and working on premium cable, and specifically Showtime, which, by the way, has been a great experience for so many reasons. Mostly, the world is very different now than it was 10 years ago. I mean, the confluence of events, the fact that this show is premiering 10 years after 9/11 and the events of 9/11 is significant, I think, and I think the show reflects very much the very different world that we live in now than the world we lived in even 10 years ago, and it's sort of an opportunity to handle some of the complexities of where we find ourselves. In 9/11, for instance, the world, 24 was very much a wish fulfillment. We had a hero, there were good guys and there were bad guys. This is taking Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo and privacy and national security and civil liberties, and really taking the complexities of all those things that have presented themselves to us. It's the world we're living in. It's very much a post-Osama bin Laden world. You know, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, who's the hero, who's the traitor, who's the soldier, who's the terrorist? All those questions that we're getting to ask in a more nuanced way than I'd ever have been able to deal with them on 24.
Now, Morena, there's obviously some big issues on this show, but you seem to be at the center of a very small, personal, emotional core of the show, which is you dealing with your husband coming back after 8 years. What are the challenges as an actress to have to play that role?
It's such an incredibly complex and interesting role. I feel so blessed to be a part of this. You're not only dealing with a woman who has lost so much, and for 8 years has been trying to deal with the loss of her husband, of never really having an answer to what happened to him, and having to move past that and move on with her life. And then suddenly having this man back who she loved, but who now is a completely different person than the man she knew. And dealing with the day-to-day life in an extraordinary situation. It's every day is so rich with little things that you can bring to a role, like making breakfast in the morning and suddenly he's standing in our kitchen, this man who hasn't been there for 8 years. And does he even know how to make coffee? What does he like? Does he still like his coffee black? There's just so many richness in the everyday.
Did you and Damian Lewis work on anything in particular to develop that relationship, or did it come in handy maybe that you didn't spend that much time together?
We didn't. I actually was cast fairly recently, and I think within a week was in Charlotte and meeting Damian and starting shooting. It was all happened as a big whirlwind. I have to admit, this is a little bit dorky, but I wrote letters as Jessica Brody to Nicholas Brody. I never sent it to him because I thought it'd be really creepy. But as part of my character research, I wrote him letters in Afghanistan. And that helped me ground myself in the day-to-day with him, and then the loss of that, and then having him come back and having shared that together.
In the show, are your suspicions about your husband based on the fact that he is just a changed man because of what he's been through, or do you think perhaps there's something going on in terms of his allegiances now?
I think for Jessica, it's just all about the man who has been through so much, and when she sees his body and sees the scars that he carries with him, I think it really sinks in just what he's been through, and he doesn't share any of that with her. He's not able to talk about it, and she's, I think, constantly wondering, you know, what went on, how damaged is he, what can I ask, what do I leave alone, you know, they're sort of walking on eggshells around each other, and so for her it's just that. I don't think she's tuned into the thriller aspect of it yet.
Howard, I think some people might say that right now we need heroes more than ever. And here's the fact, this is a show that's taking a hero and questioning his allegiances and where he fits in terms of the bigger picture. Was there any concern at all when you guys were putting that together that there might be some backlash?
You know, Alex Gonz, my partner and co-writer, and I talked a lot about that. What is a hero? And in many ways, the conventional, the hero in this piece is played by Claire Danes. Her name is Carrie, and she is a very special CIA agent who's very committed to her work and has a lot of the very familiar tropes of what it means to be a hero, but she's kind of extraordinary. And as a person, and you know, hopefully as you'll watch, you'll get to see that she's a very complex character and challenges some of those traditional notions of being a hero. So here, we really, you know, I don't know if everybody could get from that trailer what the show is about, but essentially it's about this very committed CIA agent who is, through some very slender piece of intelligence, aware of a POW who's come home, who she believes has actually been turned. And he's actually embraced by the American public, by the political establishment, as this hero. So he becomes this kind of media star who is actually being groomed, turns out, for political office. And it's very much about perceptions and how people watch people. And Carrie, our hero, does some things outside the standard norms, ethical norms. And it's really kind of interesting.
Well, October 2nd, right after Dexter, make sure you stick around on Showtime to catch the premiere of Homeland. Thanks so much for coming to